Sorry about the delay, some technical issues. I haven't started there yet because they're figuring out how to get me on the Twitter space. So you haven't missed anything. So what you're also listening to is the sounds in the background. So for those of you who want to hear the live stream, so to speak, on Twitter, you just head to my profile at the Sky Priestess on Twitter, and you'll find the Twitter space. So right now we are figuring out how to get me in there. So in the meantime, I can speak to you. So this is so bear in mind everyone's new to this Twitter space thing. So they're fixing things. Just little patience. Let's see. So it's a very important thingamajigger. So let's see how we fix this. They're still trying to find a way to get the mic to me, so to speak. So this is interesting. Okay. Okay. So we are still waiting on stuff to get settled and sorted. So it's an important event. Let's see how things come together. Let's hope for help from up above. So they're still trying to figure out a way to go and get me there. So so bear with us. And just hold space, see what happens. Nervous. I'm going to edit this and upload all of this, obviously. Whew. Well, we're still waiting on it. It'll happen. It will happen. Patience, patience, patience. Sis, and I'm joined. Hello, is this working yet? Hello, everyone. I am so glad to finally be able to speak with all of you. It's a great honor. It's a great privilege to be able to be with you today. I'm also live streaming this event on my YouTube channel for my regular followers, many of whom are Tigrayan actually. And I did not really know this till I got very active in speaking about what has been going on in Tigray. But first of all, whatever has happened. The way I see it is, it just gives us more time to gather together and to sit together with intense focus and also respect. So let me give you a little bit of intro about myself. My name is Dr. Bhairavi Balasubramaniam. That name is too complicated for most people to say, so people just call me Dr. Bhairavi or Dr. B. That is totally fine. My other name is the Sky Priestess. I have been doing spiritual facilitations for about 8 years publicly. I've gone all over the world to do workshops, to work with different communities, different lands, to work with indigenous people and indigenous energies, and to also really bring a very non white voice to the field of spirituality in the mainstream. I try not to situate myself in the mainstream, but if you want a voice that is actually willing to speak for people who are from Africa, who are from Asia, who are having their culture appropriated or harmed in a certain way, I will be the first person to open my mouth. And that is one of the reasons why I've been following what has been happening in Tigray since this broke out in late November 2020. And what I have seen and what I have witnessed from my perspective, my actual PhD was in political anthropology, but my work is very much in the spiritual domain. And so I look at both at the same time. On one hand, we see this as an intensely political conflict, and one that can very much fit into that generic category of ethnic cleansing and mass atrocities and human rights violations. And in some sense, even though these words are so charged, they have just been used over and over and over again by the international community to the point that it's regurgitation. So in fact, when I was speaking about this to people in the earlier parts of this conflict, they were just like, "Oh, it's Africa. Oh, they usually have something like that going on there. This isn't a new thing." So words that really should have been used to describe one of the most heinous and egregious violations of human rights are basically just being used as a platitude now. That narrative, that discourse has become normalized. And in that sense, that is one of the reasons why I feel at a political level, people are so blind to what is happening in Tigray, even though they have the facts and even though they have the information. But as many, many, many human rights long-time observers of the way these institutions functions, long-time advocates of human rights, long-time journalists have pointed out, something is very, very strange in the way the world is looking at this particular situation. Something is very strange, something is very unnatural in the way that the ongoing genocide, the largest genocide on this planet right now of 7 million people, is being overlooked and ignored. And that cannot be explained through politics. Ethiopia is a strategic geopolitical location. You cannot tell me that it is something that has no relevance to the greater world. And that is one of the reasons why it has been so hard to actually find someone to champion in a unified way for the future of this land, because so many other countries want a part in it. So it's not politics. The issue is not politics. There is something deeper and more fundamental to this situation. And that is where my work as a spiritualist actually makes a lot more sense to me in helping to understand just why people are so apathetic to the situation. So we will, of course, get into the specific spiritual dimensions of genocidal rape. Yes, but let's take baby steps at a time. So when I started really engaging my community space, I have several thousand people who are very devoted, very loving, very kind people who are focused towards spirituality and activism, wanting to make a change in the real world. So when I told them about this, they naturally picked up the call. But then they said, you know what? I've been telling people, I've been sharing links, and people are just not responding. And some of them were really creeped out. They were weirded out by the silence. And if anything, the silence surrounding Tigray is so full, so pregnant, it is like a wailing scream. And there is something else that needs to happen to break through this wall of silence, this wall of blindness. So, from the spiritual perspective, if we were to look at the actual history and the ancestry of Tigray, I mean, this place is a land that has thousands of years of heritage. Ethiopia is the mother for all humanity on earth. Whatever happens on this sacred ground is something that happens at the very root of our existence, of what it means to be a human being upon this planet. People are forgetting that. All right, okay, fine. Everyone's kind of burnt out from COVID. I get that. But it still seems very, very strange that one would rather ignore an attack upon their mother. And that is very much at the energetic level, the nature of the violation that is happening. Specific to Tigray, obviously, we can look at how, the bloodline that was born of Solomon and Sheba ultimately established their stronghold in Aksum. We can look at Aksum and of course the Church of Saint Mary of Zion as the place of the seat of the Ark of the Covenant, as very, very important symbols of what is a much larger spiritual energy to this place. If we think about the Ark of the Covenant, it is Mother's seat of mercy upon this planet. It is literally the throne of Saint Mary. It is literally the throne of one of the most benevolent and powerful feminine energies upon this planet. Is it any wonder that an attack upon her should create such a pattern of dissonance and discord in the world? I feel that what is happening in Tigray is not just something that affects Tigrayans, but at an energetic level, we are all fractally connected. You can think about it as chaos theory or the butterfly effect. You know what they say: a butterfly flapping its wings in, I don't know, Thailand can suddenly result in a typhoon somewhere in the Bahamas. We are interconnected at such a profound level. So when we look at such a holy land, such a sacred land, a land where, and I was actually hoping one of you could chime in on this as well, as I was speaking to Gabriel Meshkel. I'm hoping I'm saying his name right. He was telling me how effectively in every part of the culture in Tigray, you are living, you are breathing the worship of Mary. When a woman is bearing her child, okay, Mary is with you. When she has delivered, she has watched over you. Every step of the way is richly interwoven with that deeply spiritual, deeply powerful, very, very moving and loving act of faith. And when you do this kind of BS to a land that is that sacred and that pure, it's going to be the results of it upon the living beings and living bodies that are experiencing this violence. There are no words for it. You know, there are no words for what that particular violation feels like. And of course, the same applies to members of the Tigrayan diaspora, irrespective of religion. But as long as you are connected with that bloodline, you will feel it in your body, in your bones, in your blood. I mean, I am going to be doing another installation that is more focused on the diaspora because their needs are slightly different. But here in this installation, I'm hoping we really get to the heart of addressing that spiritual dissonance, that spiritual violence that has taken place through the acts of genocidal rape upon Tigrayan bodies. As was already said in the beginning, it's not just women, it's being done to men as well, boys, girls, anybody they can get their hands on, but predominantly to women and girls. So one has to ask, why this pattern of violence? When I was discussing this in a preliminary form, I said, look, if you wanted to end a population, you can do it in many, many ways. You can outright kill them, or you can castrate the men. But they're not doing that. They're going straight for the women. And why is that? Because the womb is what bears life, is what bears continuity and culture. That doesn't mean to say that men are unimportant, but it means to say that if you need life to survive and thrive and evolve, you are going to need that womb space. If you want, and if you look at even in terms of the tradition of Mary, there's a very wonderful book that was recently published called The Gospel of Saint Mary. And I really enjoyed reading it. And it was a compilation of Orthodox Christian sources that were talking about different different aspects of her life and what she means to Orthodox Christianity. And in it, you can see in each verse how they are celebrating her womb as the ladder, as the gateway, the direct intercessor to heaven itself. And in that sense, all those who bear the womb also bear that very sacred charge of creation, whether or not they ever choose to have a child, whether or not they even choose to identify as female. When you have that biological possibility in your body, you are also connected to deeper spiritual possibilities in the very fabric of your soul. So when you are alive, when you are infused with that deep faith and that deep love for mother, that womb is lit. It is on fire in a good way. Because when I see images of Tigrayan women, I see that they have this ethereal quality, this ethereal light to them. And that comes from a place that is so deeply connected with the love that flows effortlessly through that land and the way in which it honors the sacred feminine. And this is what they are targeting. This is what every being who is harming the womb in Tigray is seeking to target. Not only are they trying to psychologically destroy families and individuals, they are also trying to cut them away from their greatest strength, which is their faith. Their faith in this beautiful understanding of the feminine divine and the way that faith connects to their ancestry, their history, their perception as a group, and of course, their physical claims over territory. Claims over land and claims over women's bodies have always been connected in times of conflict, in times of war, and there is no real surprise to see the same thing happening in Tigray. So when we look at this assault upon the womb in the heinous and the violent ways that it has happened, when we look at this purely at the level of psychology, how do we heal the individual and how do we heal the community around the individual? We can only go so far. Because from my observations, having been doing this work for a while, in the case of Tigray, it is not so much the individual or even the group psyche that holds it all together. It is that faith in that larger spiritual structure or spiritual consciousness that weaves and connects all layers of consciousness and being, the individual to the group, to the nation, and all other related forms of identity. So, without looking at the spiritual dimension of this, yes, psychotherapy will help. Yes, body work, somatic based therapies will help to shift trauma. But it is like cutting a tree off and leaving its roots exposed. All of that is only going to go so far. So this is not something that anyone can fix in a single, Twitter space discussion or meditation or facilitation. But the main thing that I want to impart here is this is the spiritual reason for the rapes. It is not just because someone is getting off of it. It is targeted. It is being surgically done because not only are they trying to destroy the psyche and the will of the people, they are trying to rip them away from their mother. And when you have this perspective, it becomes even more imperative to work upon the trauma that is generated through this violent conflict, not only at the psychological level, but also at the spiritual one. Because this was the discussion that Mescal were having. He was asking, well, how do we do as a community? How do we bring back this awareness? And I said, religion has a big part to play in it, but this is the thing. People are, they're blacked out. They barely have any ability to reach out to anyone for help. There are institutions, there's also split happening within the church at the same time. It is not really providing, from what I can see, in many cases, the topmost leadership is not really clear on what is going on right now. And so then people are not having that particular way of connecting. I did see a video that was released recently of a prayer group in Aksum or close by. And so people are praying day and night. But at the same time, when you are dealing with something of this level of a violation, you also have to go a step further. You see, every religion, every society, every culture has certain rituals to recognize a person in their group. I know it sounds silly. It's like, but when I see you, don't I recognize you as a person? No. Different scholars have written about this, but Victor Turner is a particularly good scholar for this because he talks about the rites of passage and the way in which people change their identities through certain rituals. Now, rituals doesn't need to be anything very occult. A ritual can be something like going out for your first drive with your parent, or ritual can be starting the first day of school. It is something that has an action that has a deeper significance that is coded in a particular way in a culture or society. So I don't mean anything necessarily metaphysical or cult by the term ritual. But effectively, what is missing right now are rituals of rehabilitation and reintegration into the group. See, what happens when this has happened to a woman is, among many other things, among the physical trauma, the emotional devastation, and in this particular case, as these women are being assaulted, they are told to cleanse themselves of their identity. They are being told that they are somehow demonic. They are told that they need to be purified because they cannot be allowed to give birth to someone of their own race. That is a form of programming. This is basically not only a torture and a rape of the body, but of the will, of your emotions, of your mind, and they're attempting to rape the spirit. So, how does a society or a community create rituals to bring a person back into that space? I mean, as I was speaking to Gabriel Mescal, he said, look, people are being stigmatized. Even if their family members are not saying it, they don't know how, they can't look at people in the eye. And that is completely understandable because that very sacred root that connects you to your culture, your home, your family, your deeper expression and relationship with God is under attack. So the society itself has to find new ways of reintegration. What I would suggest to those of you who have any say in these matters is, you can work with spiritual leaders in the area or simply whichever elder is around. Try and do something that is more focused on rituals of purification. So even if it's something like a second baptism, even if it's something like standing in a river, if you can find one, or sitting on the earth until that person feels clean, feels pure, even if it's something that you have to keep doing for a while, even if it's taking some kind of traditional herb or traditional medicine to do this, whatever needs to be done to spiritually make a person feel clean again is one of the biggest things that can be done. Now, this is something that one sees with working with victims of sexual violence, irrespective of severity. How does one make a person? How does one remind them that they are a pure being? How does one remind a community that their daughter, their granddaughter, their mother, their sister, their brother, their father, who may have been subjected to or forced to participate in such a heinous act, how do they once again cleanse and purify that which has been done? And again, you can do it in different ways. Natural elements are a very powerful way. One of the most powerful things that a person can do to heal is to simply surrender. If you can't go to your church or your mosque, surrender to a much higher power. And nature is the largest, most powerful being there is upon this planet. We are all here at the mercy of nature. So one of the things that you can do is you can basically stand together, for example, on these are just very simple ideas. Obviously, you have to do it with what you have around you. One thing that an image that I get in my mind is, for example, someone standing in a circle and every member of that circle holding each other to once again reintegrate and allow this person to feel that they are connected back to this group. So these are all different, very specific things that one can do. In terms of substances, I mean, there is no secret, there is no surprise of why frankincense and myrrh are such powerful, powerful substances that are used in faith-based rituals. Frankincense clears the spiritual aura, and myrrh helps you once again reconnect to that sacred feminine aspect. Obviously, if you are a refugee in a camp somewhere, I can't expect you to go and find some frankincense resin overnight. But if you do have access to these will help. Doing something as simple, if you have access to it, as just putting your feet in some water with salt can also do a lot to help just start to clear away and move away a lot of these trauma. You can also do a lot of things with roses if it is available. Now, this is the thing, I'm very keenly aware that some of the people listening to this are probably like, what is she talking about? I can't even find food. Where am I supposed to find all of these things? But this is where the diaspora can actually help, as we are all connected to one another at very deep energetic levels. When you do this work upon yourself and you set an intention that it creates a sense of healing for others, especially those the family that you are not able to reach and those around them, you are also at a very subtle level creating a space where that healing can actually flow. And this is the power of faith. Now, at this time, when someone I was speaking to recently said, "You know what? I don't know if I can believe in God anymore after what has happened," and I understand that. But that is precisely why these atrocities have been happening. It is to rip you away from your strength. It is to rip you away from what has anchored and grounded your life for so long. So this, of all times, this is a time where faith is extraordinarily important and is not something that we can actually let go of. So, that pretty much covers the major points of what I had wanted to say to begin with. What I'd like to do is I'd like to also do a live facilitative event. As a priestess, what I do is I provide these services for people. And what we can be, you can call it a meditation, that's fine. We'll start with a quick prayer to Mother Mary, and we can then move into a more facilitative space. Where you can see a little bit more of what I'm talking about, because all of this has been talk. Putting it into practice is a different thing, which is what I also wanted to do on this call. But before that, it might be good. I know this is not the structure that I wanted to have initially, but things happened. Before we get into the practical demonstration, so to speak, it might be good if we can get some feedback from the crowd. If there are any questions with respect to what I have already said so far, can we maybe spend about 10 minutes on that before we get into the practicals? Go, please go ahead. That would be wonderful. Of course not. Go ahead. Actually, Gabriel Mescal, I have a suggestion. I uh, okay. Gabriel Mescal, you can actually provide the summary because I spoke with you at length. So if anyone here can provide a summary, it's you. They're trying to summarize what I'm saying in integrated language. So that's what's going on. They come back with the practicals very quickly.